From the buckle of the Bible Belt, Nashville, Tennessee, this is the Red Rules Gay Pride Edition. You've got a message that you want to spread and you want to make people care about it, this is the podcast for you.
This is the Red Podcast. Here's your host, David Hooper.
Welcome to the special Red Rules Gay Pride Edition. Red Podcast is the podcast for experts. If you want to make more money with your specialized knowledge, you're in the right place. You want to make more money tonight? Here's something for you. Make more money with a free report from createyourlist.com. It's 3 reports in one. Learn to start, grow, and monetize your list. That's the free report available right now at createyourlist.com. I'm going to take you back a few years. 1999, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I'm up there speaking at a music business conference. It was called North by Northeast. It was a sister conference to South by Southwest. When I mention South by Southwest today, most people think of it as a tech conference, multimedia conference. It is not just that. It actually started out as a music business conference. That's still a big part of it today. It's like spring break for the music industry. Every March in Austin, Texas, tens of thousands of music industry professionals get together to connect, to find out about new acts, to find out about new technology. And in 1999, as well as a few years before and after, there was also a conference in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, talking about the Canadian music industry. I was up there speaking, ran into a friend of mine. She worked for a major label. She had an expense account. She said, "Hey, you're going to hang with me this weekend." I said, "Great. That sounds fantastic." So we were hanging out in all the fancy places, and we were at an outside cafe eating on the street. We're right in the middle of downtown Toronto. I look up in between the tall buildings. There's a billboard there, and it's got 2 dudes kissing. And I'm thinking, holy shit. So my friend that I'm hanging out with, she's from New York City, but she was French-Canadian, originally from Montreal. I said, "Hey, man, there are 2 dudes kissing on that billboard." She wasn't fazed at all. And I didn't care. I mean, I didn't have a problem with it. But just to see it out in the open like that, it was shocking to me. And of course, I looked like the biggest yokel. Let me give you my background. Born in Nashville, that's where I am now. I spent most of my life in the South, including a couple of years in the very stereotypical South, Mississippi. You're just not going to see this kind of thing in Mississippi. When I was down there, I had a buddy of mine, black guy. We'd often walk places together. And when we do that, people would stare at us. It was like me looking at that billboard. It wasn't because they were racist necessarily. It was just because you never saw that kind of thing. You didn't see black folks and white folks hanging together. There are a lot of things that you didn't see down there. Let me tell you how gay worked down there. So I knew a gay guy down there. He was so scared of being outed that he was married. This was in northern Mississippi, about 90 minutes outside of Memphis. So on weekends, he'd sneak up to Memphis with his friends, tell his wife he had work to do. Something was going on up there. There was a football game, whatever excuse he could think of. And the reason he felt free in Memphis, because it was a big enough city, over 1 million people, that he felt free to be himself. For a few hours per week, he could be himself. I don't remember how I got connected to this guy. I think that I met him maybe through a friend of mine that I knew in Memphis who knew I was from Mississippi. We were from the same city, and that's how we got connected. But the bottom line is this. When he was at home, he was a prisoner. I was one of the only guys who knew the truth about him. He was lying to everybody that loved him. He was lying to his wife. He was lying to his kids. And I bring this up because there are a lot of people in the world that are just like this. It's not just gay people. Maybe they're liberal. Maybe they're conservative. Maybe they're religious. Maybe they're non-religious. At the beginning of this episode, I was joking around introducing it as From the Buckle of the Bible Belt. And this is a big culture shock to people when they move to Nashville because one of the common questions is, what church do you go to? Well, some people don't go to church. That can be weird when you move to a neighborhood and everybody on the street goes to the same church except for you. So I know people, they start going to that church just to not have the hassle. Sure, they like their neighbors, they like the people there, but they're not into the religious aspect of it. I know a lot of people like that. And that right there is your opportunity. A lot of people are on the fence about being who they are when it comes to their marketing. They try to play it safe. They try to be loved by everybody. They try to not make any waves. And what that looks like is milquetoast. What that looks like is somebody who's boring. What that looks like is somebody who's trying to please everybody, and in doing that is pleasing nobody. Now, it's super scary to get on a podcast, put your name behind something, let people hear your voice, to get on YouTube and let people see you, or to get on a message forum using your own name and state an opinion. When you do that, you're opening yourself up to criticism. When you're loved by everybody, when you're milquetoast, you're trying not to make anybody mad, well, who cares? One, you're not stating an opinion, but also, that's an act, that's a big mask. It's not really who you are, so who cares? Who cares if people get mad at you for that? Because people are going to get mad at you for everything. You could give $1 million to starving children, help them out with some food. Somebody is going to be mad about it. But that's also why you need to do it, why you need to state that opinion, why you need to plant your flag and say, here is what I believe. Because when you do that, you're not only attracting people who are just like you, you're also showing people that it's cool for them to be themselves. You're like a gay bar in the Bible Belt. You've got a culture where it's weird if somebody's not part of the clique, where it's weird if somebody's going to have a friend who's not exactly like he is, where it's weird if somebody's going to date somebody of the same sex. By you planting your flag, you're giving that person a safe space to be who he is. How much is that worth? And when you have that opportunity for somebody to be himself, how much is he going to pay you? My gay friend in Mississippi, how much was that worth to him to be himself for a few hours a week? Well, it was worth a lot. He's lying to his wife. He'd have to drive 90 minutes to be able to do it, get a hotel, live 2 separate lives, keeping track of that. That had to be completely exhausting. And that was the closest thing that he was doing. This dude, sometimes, he would have business in Europe. He would go that far out of his way to be himself. When you can offer that safe space in your business where somebody can be himself, people will search you out. You don't have to do marketing. People do your marketing for you. It's that important. So fly your flag. I'd love to know how you're doing that. Reach out to me via Twitter. @DavidHooper is my handle. Let me know if you've got any questions, you've got comments. Next episode, I've got something that's going to help you fly that flag even higher. I'm going to talk to you about how to improve your speaking skills, how to get better on the mic if you're doing podcasting or video casting, how to get better live when you've got live events and really want to connect to somebody. That's next on Red Podcast. To make sure that you don't miss it, go to redpodcast.com. In the top left, you'll see a few choices. If you listen to podcasts via Apple Podcasts, I've got a button for you. Listen on Android, I've got a button for you. You want the app? I've got one for Android and for iPhone. No matter how you listen to podcasts, one click is all it takes to make sure you never miss an episode. Go to redpodcast.com, look in the top left, and make sure you subscribe. If you like Red Podcast, you got a friend who wants to reach, expand, and develop his audience, help me spread the word. Let your friends know about redpodcast.com and how they can subscribe. Thanks so much. I'll see you on the next episode of Red Podcast.
You've been listening to Red Podcast. Never miss an episode. Subscribe now with your iPhone, Android, or via RSS at redpodcast.com.
If you listen to podcasts via Apple...